Can you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Of the United States of America. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry about the squeaking. Good evening. Tonight is February 24th. It's 7:30 p.m. We just came from a little ceremony outside. I hope everyone had a chance to take part in some of the pastries, cookies, fruit, all that good stuff. I know the kids were taking advantage, which is great, seeing them here. Before we get started on our normal agenda, there's a few things that we're going to do. First of all, I just want to take a minute to thank everyone from the village who was on duty yesterday during another crazy storm. This is our second large storm that we've had this year. So I want to thank, first of all, the DPW and Parks, everyone there who really took the time and really made the roads in Rybrook amazing. I mean, this was not an easy one. This certainly was not an easy one. It was, there was a lot of snow. I think this is the biggest storm we've seen in about 10 years that we've ever seen one of these. Not to mention two in a year. So it's good that my kids and everyone else's kids actually know what snow looks like, because I was getting worried that we wouldn't. But I just want to say thank you to everyone. It was, things went smoothly throughout the village. And it was great seeing the roads cleared this morning. Everything looked great. I also just want to thank all of our emergency responders, police, fire, EMS, who were on duty during this and really keeping people safe. It's never easy in these conditions, and I just want to say thank you for all that you've done. Before we get into our regular agenda items, I think I'm going to start. We do have one police presentation, and then we're going to go straight into our fire appointments. So, Chief, you want to come up? Let's hope there's no feedback for you.
Hopefully. Evening, Mayor, Trustees. So this evening, I'm just going to introduce one of our officers, Officer Patrick Krumack. He started back in November, and we just haven't had a chance to officially introduce him to the board and the public. So just like to bring him up and have one of his family members come up and pin him. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
How are you? Yep. They don't have it, just put it there.
Okay.
That's fine.
It's not done. Okay. That's it.
Take a picture of him.
Aw.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. And I know you've been active since November, right? Active since November. And just want to say thank you for what you've been doing, and welcome to Rybrook. A couple of months late. All right, before we get into other agenda items, we're going to move 3 resolutions up front. First, we're going to go to, let me make sure I have them in order here. We're going to go to resolution number 3, considering an appointment to the position of fire lieutenant.
Whereas the Village of Rybrook Committee interviewed eligible candidates for the position of fire lieutenant for the Village of Rybrook Fire Department, and whereas the Village of Rybrook Committee concluded that Michael Marr possesses the necessary skills and qualifications to effectively serve as fire lieutenant for the Village of Rybrook Fire Department, and whereas the administrator, on behalf of the board, offered Michael Marr the position of fire lieutenant on February 5th, to which Michael Marr accepted. Now therefore be it resolved that effective February 25th, 2026, Michael Marr of 104 Strawberry Hill Avenue, Stamford, Connecticut, is promoted to the position of fire lieutenant for the Village of Rybrook with a starting salary of $138,500 in accordance with the terms and conditions of the offer letter dated February 5th, 2026.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and a second, please? You may want to wait until we vote on it.
Yeah.
I think it just
Second.
needs to be
Lower it
pushed
down,
down.
Eric, if
Yeah.
you can.
He just needs to
Like you
be.
turned it off.
I seconded it.
Oh, there we go.
I gave you a motion.
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and I would say we're going through 3 of these. We're very excited. These are new positions that are being created in the village. There was definitely a need. We're very excited to have this. And Chris, you want to give a little background on this one? And
Sure. Yeah,
it
and I-
applies to all 3.
It does. So, yeah, we are very excited to have 3 new fire lieutenants joining as part of our Rybrook Fire Department. These are 3 promotional positions. It's a great opportunity for the firefighters, and it's great for the village of Rybrook. It's really a step forward for us, has the full support of the Portchester as well. And I do want to thank the review committee who was part of this. And we had Captain Rick Dempsey in the back, there's your hand, was part of the review committee. Portchester Chief Nick Malillo was part of our committee. Trish Lepre, our treasurer, Greg Rivera, my assistant, and myself. So we all had a review. We had really excellent candidates. It was so great to see. I was so proud of how everyone did through the whole process. And we have 3 that rose to the top and are being recommended now. I said it's a great step forward for Rybrook and the entire department. So the first appointment is Michael Marr. Michael's been with us since 2017, I believe. Is that right? So he's been over 8 years, coming up on his 9th year, and he's been really just a great addition to the department. So he's ready for this next step. I have full confidence in all 3 of our fire lieutenants that are being considered tonight. So I think with that,
All right, and then you'll
Board
say
can make the
something about
appointment.
each one maybe as we go.
yes.
All right, wonderful. All right, so we do have our motion and our second. Are you calling roll, Greg?
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So, why don't we have Michael come up? All right, so we have to do the book here. All right, here you are.
The
So,
book is our official oath of office, which is done within the first 30 days of appointment.
here we go. And repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Michael Marr,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of fire lieutenant
the duties of fire lieutenant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Picture? And then you got to sign it.
Sure.
We definitely need to have something like that. It happens so much. Not until they change the rules on how we have to do that.
The gloves don't work, right?
End up paying 3 times the amount.
Oh, I turned it off.
Sure.
Hit the button real
That
quick.
was because Chris was in charge.
Yeah.
No feedback, we're good?
I didn't
Everybody's
want
good?
to.
We're good at the
All
moment.
Good evening, my name is Michael Marr. I'd like to thank the Village of Rybrook, the Board of Trustees, the Mayor, Chris Bradbury, Captain Dempsey back there, Portchester Chiefs, and everyone behind the scenes who made today possible. The creation of these lieutenant's position is a significant step forward for the Rybrook Fire Department. I truly believe that it will strengthen our department and better position us to serve and protect the residents of our village. I also want to thank my family and my friends for their constant love and support throughout my career. Their encouragement has helped put me in the position I am today. I'm honored and humbled to accept this role, and I look forward to continuing to serve the Village of Rye Brook and helping keep it the great community we're all proud to be a part of. Thank you.
All right, moving on to our second appointment, resolution number 4, considering an appointment to the position of fire lieutenant.
Whereas the Village of Rybrook Committee interviewed eligible candidates for the position of fire lieutenant in the Rybrook Fire Department, and whereas the Village of Rybrook Committee concluded that Ronald Benson possesses the necessary skills and qualifications to effectively serve as fire lieutenant in the Village of Rybrook Fire Department, and whereas the village administrator, on behalf of the board, offered Ronald Benson the position of fire lieutenant on February 5th, 2026, to which Ronald Benson accepted. Now therefore be it resolved that effective February 25th, 2026, Ronald Benson of 2079 Midland Drive, Yorktown Heights, New York, is hereby promoted to the position of fire lieutenant for the Rybrook Fire Department at a salary of $138,500 in accordance with the terms and conditions of the offer letter dated February 5th, 2026.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved. Second.
Chris?
Yes, Ron is one of our original fire department members. Where is Ron? There he is. One of our original members of our Rybrook Fire Department. You know, he's been a leader throughout his career for the department. He's been with us for 27 years, I believe.
Wow.
And, yeah, which is quite an amazing thing. And I've always been particularly encouraged. Ron is always really interested in helping train new firefighters and be that leader on his groups, and he's always been kind of a go-to person for everyone in the village, and I'm sure he's going to do a fantastic job as a fire lieutenant.
Thank you, Chris. And again, you know, same thing applies. We're very excited to have these positions. So I think.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
and Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you.
I have a pen.
Sam, this is one of the few times I get to stand here. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to raise your hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Ronald Benson,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United
that I
States
will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of fire
the
lieutenant
duties of fire lieutenant
according to the best of my
according
ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor.
So if you don't just sign, and we'll do the pinning.
All right.
That's even worse.
27.
Yeah.
In the Rybrook Fire Department.
Please don't.
I'd also mention while they're doing that Ron is also a member of the Westchester County, formal name, the Arson Investigation Team, Arson Task Force. So you may see him in and around other communities as well when they do investigations of fire scenes.
Thank you, Board of Trustees, Mayor. I don't have anything prepared like Michael did, but thank you. I know the three of us are committed to try to make everyone work as one harmonious unit going forward. Other than that, I'm a man of very few words, but call me anytime. Thank you.
All right, and moving along, resolution number 5, considering an appointment to the position of fire lieutenant.
Whereas the Village of Rybrook Committee interviewed eligible candidates for the position of Fire Lieutenant for the Rybrook Fire Department, and whereas the Rybrook Committee concluded that John Giordano possesses the necessary skills and qualifications to effectively serve as Fire Lieutenant in the Village of Rybrook Fire Department, and whereas the Village Administrator, on behalf of the Village Board, offered the position to John Giordano on February 5th, to which John Giordano responded in the positive, and accepted the position. Now therefore be it resolved that effective February 25th, 2026, John Giordano of North Ridge, Regent Street, Portchester, New York, is hereby appointed to the position of Fire Lieutenant in the Rybrook Fire Department at a salary of $138,500 in accordance with the terms and conditions of the offer letter dated February 5th, 2026.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second?
Chris?
Yes, John has been with us for 9 years, approximately 9 years, since 2016. And where is John? There he is. And interesting enough, John also started with us prior to being a firefighter. He started with us in our Parks Department. So after moving on and going somewhere else for about 2 years, we grabbed him back, and he's been really been just a dedicated Rybrook firefighter since he started. He was a great employee as a Parks employee, he's a great employee as a firefighter, and we were so happy that he came back to Rybrook, and he's really excelled in his position, and I'm sure he's going to be a great fire lieutenant for the department.
Thank you.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Cross?
Yes.
Trustee Moreno?
Yes.
And Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you.
Should I buy?
Oh, time for a new book.
That's it. Can you believe it? That
Wow.
book started in
This-
19.
this has
That
been-
book started in 82.
This book is
Yeah.
started in 1982. Wow. All right. Well, it's time to move on to a new book. All right. So you know the deal
Yes,
here.
sir.
All right. So I state your name.
I, John Giordano,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New
and
York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of fire lieutenant
the duties of fire lieutenant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you have to sign. If someone wants to come up. Well done.
All right, I didn't have anything prepared either, but just to, echo what Mike said, this is, it's a long time coming. It's a step in the right direction for the department. I look forward to the task and, getting the department headed in the direction it should be going. Little steps are going to turn out big goals. So I look forward to it. Chiefs, everybody, thank you. My family, thank you.
All right, so I do want to say, congratulations to our three lieutenants, our three new lieutenants, and just thank you to every other firefighter in the Rybrook department. It is, and Portchester as well. This was, as Chris said, this was a tough process. It's never easy choosing the three to be promoted to this position. We really are very lucky to have such a great fire department in the village of Rybrook, and I want to thank every single one of our firefighters for all that they do on a daily basis. But I also want to thank everyone else who's in this room. because it's really your support that helps them do what they do. It's not easy. I know sometimes it's tough hours. Sometimes it's, being on call a lot. It's being away from home a bit. And we really appreciate all the support that everyone gets. It really helps it, and, you're an extension part of our community as well. So I just want to say thank you. Any comments from the board?
No, great job.
Right, we're very lucky.
All right.
Mayor, I just wanna
Yes,
add-
please, Chris.
If I can just add one thing, we do have our newest firefighter in the room as well, so I just want to introduce Charlie Nielsen, who is now, Charlie is fresh out of the academy, and he did a great job. I had the pleasure of going to the graduation, which was really a wonderful event, and so we wish him all the best in a long career for the Village of Rybrook.
So thank you all again for coming. We are going to move on to the rest of our agenda at this point. You're welcome to stay. I have a feeling the room's going to clear out. And I would just ask, you're welcome to hang in the hallway and whatever, but maybe we'll just close the doors so that we can move on with our agenda.
And Shari, thank you so much for setting everything up tonight.
Yes, and thank you to Shari for setting everything up. Yeah. Feel free to have more cookies, fruit, coffee, all that good stuff.
Wow.
They're not here for the battery storage discussion? They're not here for the battery storage discussion.
Shocking. Shocking.
I'm saying, one, I just saw the back of her
It's
hair.
okay, don't worry.
I had to see
Who's going to some people here for the other things?
I don't know if anybody knows the ones that are not here, by the way, are the ones where we just passed away.
Where's my pencil? I don't know where it went. Huh?
I hope.
Getting people out of the room or,
Nice meeting you.
close the doors. Thanks. Thank you so much.
When is it?
Hope overcomes her shyness.
Sorry, I'll figure it out. That's the end of the book. We have another one coming.
So cool.
1982.
Huh? Isn't
That
crazy?
is awesome.
Look, I had to add a page in.
That is
What was the
amazing.
first entry?
I think it's Pascal, I think.
Sign it?
No, I did. I think it's looked at me and he said, "Are you okay?" I thought it
Yeah, Pascal.
was moving.
Now, the
Is there
original
moving
mayor
notice?
expected to be first mayor, it's the first entry,
August 82. And then the board member.
and the rest of the board members.
Really cool.
All right, so we are going to move on with our agenda. Chief, maybe you want to push him out?
Also, they didn't do everybody back then. I think
Oh,
that's good.
yeah.
Push him out.
It's technically only used to be the office, the public office.
They're trying to get, they're
I
getting
was just,
pictures of
I'm not going to debate who is and who isn't.
Yeah, why not just do
Everybody's
it?
son.
Yeah.
Then you know you can't lose with that.
Safe and smart.
Yeah.
to have like a whole thing out there.
They-
This has to be up there somewhere.
Also, there has to be,
No, it's
not
kind of
both.
official.
No.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so we're gonna resume our normal agenda at this point. We, for obvious reasons, we wanted to get that over with. There's a lot of people here for that. It's not to minimize anything else on the agenda. All right, so our first public hearing, we have two public hearings tonight. The first public hearing is a public hearing on a proposed local law amending Chapter 240, Subsection A of the Village Code to prohibit parking at the corner of Elm Hill Drive and Betsy Brown Road. I think at this point, we're not going over the resolution, correct, Chris?
Correct.
Can I have a motion and second, please, to open the public hearing?
Motion. Second.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Trustee Merlino?
Yes. Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you. And so this opens the public hearing. We do have, so this was a draft change, this is a draft change to a local law about the parking. This was something that had come to us from the Traffic Commission. Chris, you want to give a little background on this, please?
Sure, yes. This is something that the Traffic Commission took a look at, and it was looking at the parking situation, and there happens to be a little bit of a curve that makes the sight lines very difficult in that particular area. So there's been, local law has been enacted based on the recommendations of the Traffic Commission, which is to prohibit parking from the intersection of Elm Hill Drive and to Betsy Brown Road. Let me give you the exact specifics. Okay, so it's going to be, the recommendation is on Elm Hill Road, from Elm Hill Road to a point 215 foot west of Betsy Brown Road intersection, and on Elm Hill Road on the south, these are both on the south side, from a point pointing east and west, and shall be placed approximately 100 feet west of the Betsy Brown intersection. So basically, it's a section of Elm Hill Road, and it's Elm Hill Drive, and it's basically to do it right where there's the limited sight distance due to the curve.
Thank you, Chris. And this is a public hearing. I would invite anyone here from the public who'd like to speak to please come up.
And I should say drive, not road.
All right. So come up here, please just state your name and address.
Denver Brown, 4 Old Oak Road, so 2 houses in from the corner of Elm Hill and Old Oak. I think we're talking about a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Like, that's my issue with it, right? I mean, I've lived there for over 10 years. There's people in the room that have lived there a whole lot, right? My neighbors that have lived there for even longer than that, and this has never been a problem, right? I mean, obviously, there were 3 houses that were built there. We only added 1 residence, right, to the area that you're talking about, so it shouldn't be a dramatic change. My main concern is that those cars are going to be parked somewhere, right? And most likely, the logical place to do it is if you can't park on Elm Hill there, you'll just come and park on Old Oak, right? And talking about lines of sights, as you come up the hill there and you make the right onto Old Oak, it's probably one of the blindest turns you can possibly have outside of San Francisco or something like that, right? Like, as you come up the hill and make the right in front of Scott's house.
You just lower the mic, it'll stop.
Yeah, no problem.
There we go.
As you make that right, the vision onto Old Oak is about as restrictive as you can get in our town, right? So that's my only concern. Those cars are just going to be parked somewhere else. They're going to be parked someplace where I think you're going to get head-on accidents, right? Because you're going to have somebody where there's a car parked when you're making the right and a car coming that you can't see, and they'll avoid that car, and you'll have cars hitting each other head-on. That's my only concern in front of my house, but it is what it is, right? Again, like, people visit, people have friends over, et cetera. The cars are going to be parked somewhere. My concern is where they go and what that means. That's it. Simple as that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Anyone else? This is a public hearing, please.
Good evening, board members, mayor, community members. Adam Goldsmith. I moved to Rybrook about 6 months ago with my wife Jamie, who's here, my son Noah, who's 5, my other son Benny, who's 2.
Move it right out of the way.
Out of
Just
the
don't
way.
even worry about it.
I talk loudly. Okay.
Should we just turn it over, Chris?
Yeah, people listen
Just
to
press
this
the button.
on the
I'm just concerned. I know.
video recording.
I'm just, perhaps we can,
Or let him sit at the table and walk around.
yeah, maybe one of the ones from the table.
No, just let them go, it's
I don't know
fine.
why we're getting such bad feedback tonight. This is usually not an issue.
I know we had a problem with our prior podium, so this is the old podium that they tried to make work, I believe, but
Oh, that could be it.
could be.
Will we be able to the minutes
4 Elm Hill
from-
Drive, which
yeah.
you have this diagram in front of you. It's the section where the no parking signs will be. That's why we're here tonight. We are in opposition of the proposal. The no parking area being discussed, essentially, from the stop sign to the pole is the space in front of our house. I guess where I'd start is we rarely park on the street. Generally speaking, the area in question does not have any cars. We just moved in. There's been, we've had painters and electricians. As anyone who's moved before, there's some level of contractors traffic in your house, and At the same time, there's a new house being built, two houses down. So you've got kind of a confluence of events happening in the area of new houses that have been built, now another one being built, as Denver mentioned, short-term problem. There's also been a massive amount of snow this winter. So where people have parked in the street, you know, the community has done a great job of plowing, but obviously the curb and the snow go out to the street a little bit. And for those reasons, I think there's a higher sensitivity to the problem at the current moment, but that is all short term, as Denver said. Our hope is that that you guys can appreciate and respect that this time period is a short one, and also, you know, as we drive around Rybrook, we found, you know, many similar areas and that have kind of a stop sign, a T intersection, you know, that don't have, you know, no parking signs. And so I'm not totally sure as we look at the configuration of the street, you know, why this area is any different. I know, you know, we have 2 young children that do the walk from our house to Crawford Park all the time. The safety of the street couldn't be more important to me, my wife, and our family. You know, I'd love to do something about how fast people drive sometimes, but that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. But in terms of the no parking proposal, I'm afraid that the reality of where the cars are parked, as well as that it's a short-term problem, don't necessarily meet the proposal. As the bulk of the area never has cars parked, unless we have Thanksgiving, Super Bowl party maybe, things of that nature. So I guess my ask of the committee would be to put this proposal on the back burner while we get through you know, new homes in the area, more trucks than normal, massive amounts of snow that are jutting out into the street that have created a higher sensitivity to the problem, and revisit it once we get beyond that point. The last thing I want to say, which my wife told me to mention and I forgot, is, you know, we are new to this town. We moved in 6 months ago. We picked Rybrook because it felt like such a small, tight-knit community, down to earth people. That is what we have found, and we've been really happy to be involved in this community with our children. And you know, I recognize Chris from Ice Cream in the Park. Right? And so,
We recognize you from the varsity basketball games too.
yes. I love going to the blind book basketball games. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Denver Sun point guard. So that's the story. I think it's a short-term problem. If it is a larger problem, we want to help. You know, we're happy to ensure the safety of the street in which we live on and what we can do to help in that regard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have other comments from the public? Please.
Hi, Scott Wexler, 2 Old Oak Road, between the 2, I've been there about almost 20 years. I agree, I'm obviously in opposition of this resolution. I agree with what my neighbors have said. A couple things that have come up. That's a school bus stop as well, with the blind spot that Denver mentioned. You know, that school bus comes up Elm Hill, makes a right on my street on Old Oak. It's blind and it won't park cars there. It's gonna be a little tighter. The other thing I wanna say is, I think it's on the south side, you're proposing the south side parking restriction. If the cars just move, instead of Old Oak, on the other side of Elm Hill, that stop sign in front of my house, which is pretty optional if you watch, it's optional, that it's a curve there also. That's a very bad blind spot. If they start parking adjacent to my house, which is across Elm Hill, that's a very bad blind spot as well. So there's just a lot of things that my neighbors and I have brought up here that we think that this should just be rejected or just at least turned down for temporarily. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have other members of the public that would like to speak?
I would
Hello, everyone. Sam Canuck, 5 Elm Hill Drive, with my wife Hallie. So we're just up the road. Similar to what everyone else has said, concerned about, if the cars aren't parking there, we can park further up. Actually, we're, further up the road, it gets even a bit narrower, so it would potentially make it probably even worse. So really just want to, again, put our opposition and support for our neighbors and community.
Thank you. Thank you. Please.
Barry Citrin of 1 Old Oak, and in full transparency, a member of the Traffic Commission. Which the whole concept of the issue was brought to numerous people in the neighborhood, not any of the one of the ones that is here hasn't spoken yet. Because it is a blind curve that unfortunately was not rectified when the houses were built, and people are speeding. That's the biggest issue. People are just not speeding, not necessarily even over the limit, but not going in what's safe, because there's also a bump in the hill as you go up the hill. The big area, the Traffic Commission, in looking at it and talking about it, had actually proposed this much smaller no parking area, which was going to be, the thought process was maybe driveway to driveway on 4 and 6, and then limited it to the driveway to the telephone pole, and that would cover the area directly opposite Old Oak, to the T intersection. It's not unique, as it was mentioned, there are T intersections all over. Theoretically, according to, I believe, New York law, it's illegal to park in the 30 feet across from such an intersection. There's no signs anywhere, there's no enforcement, as Scott also mentioned, just like the stop signs for people. We know it's an issue, and the Traffic Commission discussed it. This got made longer going down to Betsy Brown, and that's not where the issue is. The issue, and there have been a few people who've written letters, including an anonymous one on the Rybrook website, of further up. And the big problem has been, in the last 3 or 4 months, the construction workers at what's now 8. And as people said, that is temporary. So we don't know what it's going to be like. And if everyone who's even parking there now, and 6 who isn't here, definitely has had more cars, but has not been any issue, from having lots of cars in the last 3-4 months at least, and they're gonna go somewhere. And do you then have no parking on both sides? Then you almost have to, yet then there's no place to park for anyone. If people park on the circle up ahead, you can't go around the circle. Just the other day, even with the snow, the garbage truck couldn't get through. So I agree actually with, and we have not discussed this at the Traffic Commission, I agree with Adam and others that, it may or may not be temporary. Clearly, there are more people and more cars than there had been. The previous large house had an extremely long driveway, so no one parked on the street. 1 Elm Hill sometimes does have some cars parked. We don't on that. We typically are parking because our driveway's on Old Oak. That it makes sense to table this to the spring. Hopefully once that house is done, they made it a lot larger. We have no idea how many people will live there, how many cars they will have. Potentially even further conversations with all the residents and trying to do the best. And it's not safe, but it's still safe for that whole area than the corner further down Elm Hill, which is a 90-degree angle where theoretically people can park. So it's not just, this isn't the only area there's an issue. So it doesn't solve the problem, it doesn't take away potential liability and issues, I know. But it's not something that I think can easily be decided at this point in time. 3 feet of snow, 2 feet of snow.
Thank you. Do we have other members of the public that would like to speak? Michael, as you serve on, do you have anything to say about
no.
the T intersection?
The
Chief?
police, yeah. We do have a traffic representative who serves on the traffic commission. Somebody from our police department serves as well, so they're aware of the conversations that occurred.
All right. Well, it certainly sounds to me like, I mean, if there is a rule in New York State about the parking at the T intersection, that's something that maybe we want to consider and wants to be addressed. I'd love to hear from other members. I mean, I have an idea myself, but I'd like to hear from other members of the board.
It seems to me that what we've heard tonight is that the people most directly affected by this are not interested in it. And so my recommendation would be to send this back to the Traffic Commission.
That's what I was going to suggest.
And let them think about it some more.
Okay. Trustee Crum?
Yes, I mean, I agree. I have strong opinions on a lot of things, not a strong opinion on this, but yeah, we have a traffic commission, and I'm very sympathetic to and appreciate neighbors getting involved, and it sounds like they're willing to keep an open mind, and I like the idea of not rejecting it out of hand, but tabling it, and if you want to say, putting it back to the committee, that's a great solution, I think.
I concur. I think it's great that all the neighbors got together and had conversations. Clearly, that what has transpired. So that's wonderful. My question is always, how come there's no stop sign when you're on Betsy Brown going to Elm Hill? That's really my question, because I know that people
Come around that
curve. It's not going down. Going down, you have to stop. You say it's optional. The one by your house too. I understand. I've been in this neighborhood 30 years, so believe me, I've driven my share of carpools everywhere. So, but that was always one question that I had. So I don't know if that's ever something that we or the Traffic Commission brings up, or if it's plausible. But I think tabling this for now, certainly you have the right idea. And most people don't park on the street when you live there. They park in their driveways. And so guests are not as, it's big events. It's a Thanksgiving. It's as you said, Super Bowl. Everybody's busy those days, so people take more care. They drive a little slower when they see so many vehicles. But, obviously the Traffic Commission has met, but I think that the residents have the most say. And this is what they are telling us.
Trustee Moreno?
I happen to live up the road for 18 years, and I must say that I never had a problem, never thought of it being a problem parking over there. But I also do think that tabling this thing until all the construction's done on the street, and then maybe revisit it at that time in the spring, summer, maybe our traffic commission could look at studies and see if there were any accidents, how many accidents, if there's any accidents. And I do agree with Susan about the stop sign over there, because that will definitely slow somebody down to come up around the bend and around the corner.
All right, thank you.
But that's something we can talk about later.
Certainly this is something I drive all the time. I'm constantly going to Vine Ridge Park. This is the way I go in order to get to the Ice Cream Fridays or to get to any other event that's happening there, or just if I'm oddly cruising around neighborhoods just seeing what's going on in Rybrook, which I tend to do from time to time. And for some odd reason. I think we've heard pretty clearly from the residents here. I think we've heard clearly from this board. At this point, I think this board would be in favor of sending this back to Traffic Commission to look more, unless you have more to add, Chris.
No. I would just say, it sounds like the board, somebody should make a motion to close the public hearing and then send this issue back to the Traffic Commission to revisit after the construction in the area is completed?
Let's do that as two separate, we're going to do that as two separate resolutions. So first, I would just ask, is there anyone else, because we are going to close the public hearing, is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on this matter? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion and second, please, to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
And Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you. The public hearing is now closed. This is typically where we would move into a resolution, but we are not going to move into this resolution. So can I have a motion second, please, to direct this issue back to the Traffic Commission? Maybe, not immediately. We may
Right.
want to wait until we see whether,
Spring.
until we see after the construction has died down, once we get into spring. But for another report and recommendation from Traffic Commission at such time as they see fit.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Unless we want to put a
You
specific.
could do it now,
time.
and then it'll come back
No,
after the construction period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So can I get a motion second on that?
Motion.
Second.
Okay.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
And Mayor Klein.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you all for coming out. This is how local government is supposed to work, that we get recommendations. We have to rely heavily upon our committees and our commissions that we have within the village. We can't be experts in everything.
Speak
But
for
it's,
yourself.
he is. I'm not. But it's, we like to hear from the public who this is going to affect. And this is how, in my opinion, this is how local government should work. So thank you for coming out.
No, but
You have
you're
to sign the
required-
book, but there's
you're-
no more room in the book, so you'll have to.
You're required to stay.
Yeah, and I'm
there's a
guessing
lot.
by the number of people that are leaving that none of you have outstanding parking tickets within the village, because that's the next item on our agenda. All right, moving on to the next public hearing. Public hearing number 2, a public hearing on a proposed local law amending Chapter 240 of the Village Code to authorize the impoundment and/or immobilization of vehicles for delinquent parking tickets and to convert unclaimed abandoned vehicles to a village use.
Wow.
Need a motion to open the public hearing?
Well, oh, right. It's right. I'm thinking that we're reading some kind of resolution. We're not. So can I please have a motion and a second to open the public hearing?
So moved, second?
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you. The public hearing is now open on this. Before we get to it, a little background on this. And this is something that recently came to our attention. I'll let Chris handle the,
Sure.
I'm afraid of what I would say, so.
So yes, we have, turns out, the town of Rye is responsible for adjudicating any tickets that get issued. And as it turns out, there are a lot of people that have vehicles that have received tickets that have remained unpaid. So one of the issues that we're trying to do is move this forward in a better way, is to have a local law that when the town of Rye can notify, they've said they can notify our police department when there are people or vehicles that have more than 3 tickets, unpaid parking tickets, in the village of Rybrook, which the village has the ability then to take that information when vehicles are driving on public streets or on either parking or driving on public streets or parked in fire lanes or handicap spaces, that the village police department would have the ability to either impound or immobilize those vehicles. Only we're talking about the ones that have 3 or more unpaid parking tickets. So if they go in, for instance, into Rye Ridge Shopping Center and a person's parked in a fire lane and the police go in and that vehicle gets tagged for having 3 unpaid parking tickets, that they were able to do something to do something about that vehicle rather than issuing another ticket that's not going to be paid. So the idea here is to, follow up, so make sure that people are not parking in fire lanes, not parking in handicap spots, and if you get a ticket, they should be paid in a timely manner. So this is not about seeking additional revenue for the village. That's not the purpose of this. what this local law is about is trying to remove and get people to, follow through on the laws, follow through on the, when you get a ticket, you should be paid. If you feel that you shouldn't have gotten a ticket, there's a process for that in court. And the courts here will always work with people in terms of if there's an issue of, you can't pay a ticket or anything like that. But this local law is simply about us when there's somebody who has repeated violations. And in some cases, we have one, I think the worst is we have like 13, one has 13 tickets that are unpaid right now. So we got a list from the town of Rye. There's over 100 vehicles that have more than 3 or more unpaid parking tickets. So again, over 100 over on the list that goes back quite a ways. It goes back to 2007 or so. But there's over, I think it was 105 that had 3 or more tickets. And then again, in some cases, there was about 10 or so that had more than 10 tickets. So there's a lot of people that, we don't want to see happen is if people are getting tickets, they can just get ignored because it's not going to be followed up. So the town of Rye is looking to do follow-up on people that are not doing that. And just so you know, it does go to the Department of Motor Vehicles. If you are a scofflaw and you have 3 tickets that are unpaid, it will go to motor vehicles. That's another way to kind of get caught in the net so that people can't register their vehicle or renew license plates. If it gets tagged to an owner, then the owner may not be able to renew their driver's license. But what we're talking about here is a local law that says if there's somebody with 3 or more tickets, this would give the police the ability to impound or immobilize the vehicle so that the issue can be addressed.
Thank you, Chris. And again, this is a public hearing. I would invite any members of the public who want to talk about this. I just have one question before we did. I thought years back we had changed the local law regarding the abandoned vehicles. For some reason, I thought I remembered maybe
Abandoned?
I thought so. Or
I don't know what you mean by abandoned. Well, no, what we're talking about here is immobilizing, putting a boot on them, or towing them.
right, but one of them was about but one part of this.
Oh, the
law
other
was-
section of the local law.
Yeah, the other section of the local law is talking about the
you wanna address
abandoned
that, Eric?
vehicles, and for some reason I thought there was an issue with one of the access areas to that little parcel that we own behind.
No, so
the Rye Ridge Shopping
what this
Center.
is if, say there's a crime that's committed, we need to have a local law and say there's a vehicle involved with the crime.
Okay.
The village is, in some cases, able to take acquisition of those vehicles if it's abandoned, and you need to have a local law in place to be able to acquire that vehicle. So
Okay.
that's the purpose. That's just kind of clean up. But we can't, which we've done in the past, but we just need to, you need to have a local law in place to take that action.
Right. Okay. I thought we had. one,
That's
but
more
I guess
minor.
Yeah.
That's not about people
No, I
like
know.
leaving
No,
vehicles.
I
It's
know.
really if there's like more like a crime committed.
Okay. Got it.
I do
Okay.
have a question.
All right. Before we get to, and I would just ask, is there any member of the public who wants to speak to this matter? Okay.
So I have some questions because some of these are from 2012, 2013. There are some that are more recent. For instance, I'm looking at one that was from 3/26/25, and that person has 3 tickets all within a week. And what does the town of Rye do to collect these? And I'm concerned for that person that got 3 tickets within that week. Maybe they didn't know they got that ticket. Is there any way that we can inform them or have a, I don't want to say amnesty, I'm not looking for amnesty, but we don't have a local paper to let them know that we're undertaking this effort right now, and I think it's only fair that we announce that we are doing this. And if you want to clean up your tickets, please do so now, or else we're going to boot your car, which is going to be much more expensive for them, and much.
Right.
So
So-
perhaps we should undertake that before we boot them.
Yeah, and Chris, I think this is a common concern among the board. I've heard from a few board members about this, about what notification is going to be given to people, because again, this is, yes, it is the fault of the person who was issued the ticket. They should have paid it right away. They wouldn't have compounded, it wouldn't have incurred further fines. But in some cases, some of these are older. How are we going to notify people? Or is that the town notifying people that they have these? Because there wasn't follow-up from the town initially on these.
Find out.
Chief, you want to chime in?
So, it is the town that is supposed to follow up what they did initially was send out one notice and never followed up again. So now, once this local law is in effect, the town has to send out notice to everyone. After a certain amount of time, if they don't get a response, they send out one more notice saying, this is what can occur. And then we go from there.
Okay, so there will be a number of notices sent prior to this.
Okay,
The town has agreed to do another one to this list? Okay.
So,
Well, I was told we would.
so, I have a question.
Trustee Morlino, yeah.
Quick question. I know that it's kind of obvious, I see it, where people register a vehicle, 2 years they move. Of course, if they move, the ticket that goes out is followed up with a follow-up to see where their new address is, or is it go to the same old address that you have on record?
Good question. So, as far as I know, they get the information from the Department of Motor Vehicles,
Updated?
updated.
Okay.
But
So their words are the last known address.
But you have to at least make sure, right?
It's the town.
Town, whatever. Town has to make sure that they go to the motor vehicles, because people move, right, number
we
one.
know there's tons of cars on here that are no
No,
longer owned.
no, the plates are gone, that's right, that's gonna be another issue. And I guess you can't go to the motor vehicles or ask the motor vehicles to run that name, or the court, yeah.
Go through a service.
So that's go to a service.
Remember also, when the parking ticket is issued to the vehicle, not the person.
Not the person,
So,
that's right. Right.
It's possible for the owner to get tagged as well, in terms of if it.
The owner will get
if
tagged,
there's
yeah.
But eventually, but initially, it's tied to the vehicle.
Right.
So it's the vehicle and whatever address it's tied to in the vehicle.
Yeah, and I mean, from a personal standpoint, I've studied this list quite a bit, and some of these, you see multiple vehicles getting ticketed that are owned by the same car service, and so it's certain car services as well that you see 3 different vehicles, but it's all the same address, it's all the same owners. So I mean, there's definitely some, and then others are just kind of people. I mean, some of them. I mean, there's Utah plates here. I saw one Alaska plate. I'm
It's
like,
probably
wow.
a
I get a
probably a
parking ticket in
rental-
Rybrook with an Alaska plate.
a rental car.
That's unique.
Now, in those cases, when it's a license plate from out of state, and if that's the last known address is out of state, obviously they don't notify the motor vehicles in that
Yeah,
state.
no,
So
you
it would only affect, the New York State DMV notice would only be for vehicles that are registered in New York.
Boy, it's a tough one. I guess you said, Susan, you had meant something about amnesty, not doing amnesty, or?
no,
No,
I'm not,
amnesty,
I'm
no,
not
no.
interested in amnesty.
Yeah.
I mean,
I-
because these are tickets that they incurred, but I do not want them to have a boot put on their car if they haven't been informed.
Right, and it
in
sounds
a-
like-
It's been 10 years, 12 years for some of these cars. They don't remember them.
Right, and it sounds like there will be ample notice. Trustee Crom, I know you had a comment.
I have strong feelings on this all the way through the process. First of all, I'm a new trustee. I've only been a trustee for a little less than a year, but this is the first time I'm finding about the magnitude of the issue, like today, realizing there's hundreds of these things out there. And it's tricky because it's the town of Rye that has the courts, it's the town of Rye that is supposed to be administering all this, and it's the town of Rye, frankly, that hasn't been doing it for maybe a decade. And I feel like I don't object to the scofflaw law is what we're talking about here, the idea of towing a car after X number of tickets. But to me, that's the final step. And I'm not convinced that we have all the steps between the town of Rye and us. Again, I'm shocked because I think of our village. We have no meters, we have no paid parking lots, and how are we getting so many tickets? I'd like to, understand more about where these tickets are coming from. If it's all fire lanes and handicapped, then yes, I'm much more in favor of, throwing a book at these people if it's going through some sort of process. I am in favor of some sort of amnesty going back, or some sort of program where people are told, there's percent on the dollar going back, some sort of transition. I think what we're looking at is a change process from doing, I don't really want to place all the blame on the town of Rye, but effectively, we didn't know about this until very recently. We'd have to go from doing nothing to doing, to me, a series of things progressively. Putting notice out is one of them. I thought the problem was small. Again, I can't imagine, I'm shocked at how big it is because we don't have a municipal parking lot, we don't have a downtown, we don't have meters. And therefore, it's really not, it's not even a budget issue because we haven't budgeted any of this revenue. That's how unaware we were about yet it's a big number. So to me, and I'm also sensitive because when you get into the administration of this law, it turns out that you can't tow cars that are on private property. So you can't tow a car, a scofflaw that has 10 tickets that's parked in the Rye Ridge Plaza because that's private property. Normally, we would have, a village might have a downtown where they'd park on Main Street, and you'd be like, hey, you're on number 1 Main Street, and you have 10 tickets, we're towing you. But they're in the Rye Ridge Plaza, you can't tow them. They're in their driveway at home, private property, you can't tow them. There's ambiguity about if they're in an HOA. Presumably, you can tow from an HOA that they're parked, but it is private property inside the HOA, although you would think that's public use streets, and they have to be. To me, it's a bit complicated, and I would be in favor of this if it was part of a continuum. But to me, this is not the first step, and until I understand, for instance, who's going to be going back for the back tickets? Is there going to be a program of, saying, look, you got one 10 years ago, and is there a statute of limitations on tickets? Is there an effective statute of limitations on tickets? And I don't think we've vetted all that out. I don't know if the town of Rye has vetted all that out. To me, and then I'm also sensitive to then, if I have a driveway and I can avoid being towed because I'm parking in my driveway, there's areas of the village that are very different. And those people may have, parking may be much more restricted. They may be the people that end up getting tickets because parking is much more restricted in parts of our village. And just like we heard from neighbors on Elm Hill today, I wouldn't mind an outreach program to areas of the village where parking is very tight to hear about what the issues are. Maybe some of the parking signs are too restrictive. Or I don't know what the issue. I looked at the list, and it's not a lot of fire lane and handicapped. It's about a lot of general parking issues. Again, shocking when we don't, again, if we had parking lot and parking meters, I could more understand, like someone's not paying for parking, like in the city of Rye. Anyway, I'll shut up. But to me, I'm not objecting to it, but I would like to see it as part of a continuum and sort of, and also I do want to compliment our attorneys. I like the idea of having a number of tickets not paid. Originally, we were talking at the last meeting about it being a dollar amount, so I do like it being a number. But I could see some sort of progressive thing saying, for the next year, it's 10 tickets or more, or whatever, and then it goes down. Again, just some transition thing. I'll shut up.
So I'd like to give the chief a chance to respond, and then I also have
Chief,
comments.
a question, though?
Yeah, and then
I have a practical question. If we impound cars, where are we bringing these cars?
If we impound them, they would go to the tow yard of the company that's towing for that week.
Okay.
And they incur a huge
So,
daily
if
rate
you want to
and
take
fee.
Chief, if you'd like to take a few minutes, just anything you'd like to say that you've heard so far.
Hey, listen, I'm not against having some sort of program leading up to it. It just, we need to start moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Obviously, the town of Rye left us in the dark for numerous years.
Right.
Like, why are we writing these
So,
tickets?
so my personal comment, is that, as far as I'm concerned, the process started the minute you got that ticket. That, this is not, something that you didn't get notice of. And we're not talking about someone who got one ticket and, they drove away, they didn't notice it, it blew off from under their windshield wiper.
Happens.
This, which, happens, or it snows a foot, well, after you've gotten a ticket, because you're parked on the street when you shouldn't be, impeding the plows, but then, a foot of snow falls, the ticket disintegrates or whatever, it gets wiped off when you're scraping. This is anyone who's gotten more than one ticket, and we see that often these tickets are consecutive. Like you've said, you get 3 tickets within a week. You know that you're getting those tickets. That's the first warning. And the ticket should have been paid. And again, shame on the town of Rye for not collecting and not noticing this problem for a long time. if this had been something that had been at their attention for a long time, these people would have been getting notices. And you know that if you don't pay the ticket, the fine goes up. You don't pay it again, the fine goes up even more. I think it's 30, 60, 90 days, and then, eventually it reaches the maximum. And so the first notice is the ticket. And if you've gotten 3 or more tickets in the Village of Rybrook, then you've gotten 3 or more notices, and you are therefore willfully denying to pay this, as far as I'm concerned. This is not something that you say, oh, I forgot. When you're getting multiple tickets, you are willfully denying to pay what you owe. Whether you think you can just get away with it, whether you think that it's, well, I'm not going to be driving much in Rybrook anymore, so I don't have to worry about this. I agree somewhat with the feeling that there should be notice. This shouldn't just come out of the blue. All of a sudden, you go out to your car on the street and it's gone, and you wonder why, and you find out that there were 3 tickets that you got back in 2017 you got the week before COVID hit, and all of a sudden now you're saying, well, wait a second, what happened? So there definitely needs to be notice. And very stern notice, and it may be 2 letters of saying, a certified letter or something coming from the town saying, you're in violation of this, here are the possible penalties. But we need some form of recourse, that there needs to be a way that, people have to understand that this is serious. You get 10 tickets for parking in the fire lane at the Rye Ridge Shopping Center. You should be paying those, or you should at least have learned your lesson. And, and for a lot of these, they are repeat offenders. We're not looking at the person who got 1 ticket, 10 years ago, totally forgot about it, and never received another notice from the town that they owed something. They're going to have to come to terms with that alone, because if they never sent someone a second notice, it just went from $50 to $200 without them even knowing. And there are other ways, like we were being told, if you have 3 outstanding tickets, you might not be able to get your license renewed. You may not get your registration renewed. So there is recourse in the DMV, but we also need recourse here. So I guess, what form that takes, how do we ensure that there's going to be notice? How do we ensure that, it's not, again, you don't want someone walking out to the car in the morning and it's booted and they don't understand why. So, I think we have to find a solution to that, but I'm absolutely in favor of this legislation. Trustee Epstein.
I think we need a task force with the town of Rye, so we help them move this along and figure it out.
The town of Rye interested in a task force?
That remains to be seen.
And also, by the way, just for your edification, I'm looking at this one individual who has 5, 10, 15 tickets, all from 2023 to 2025, primarily for the same no parking 2 to 6 in the morning. So I see
overnight parking.
Right, no overnight parking. So I'm sure, and I looked where the street was. It's in Rybrook, in an area where it's very densely populated.
Right.
But that does not excuse them from not following the rules.
Right, but if I can comment.
Please.
Evidently word on the street is you don't have to pay tickets if you get a ticket in Rye Town Court. Okay, I get it. And we need to say there's a new sheriff in town, a new police chief in town, if you will. Or, the town of Rye woke up. The town of Rye woke up. I'm looking at the list today. I can't believe for a town, again, that has I'm talking to my family and going, where are the parking tickets coming from? We don't have, the city of Rye, I get it, they have meters, they have municipal lots. You go on their website, they have a parking violations bureau. They have a way to pay on the website. I'm looking at the list now. I don't know I've never gotten a ticket, knock on wood. But I don't know, is the town of Rye made it easy to pay? Is it clear how to pay? Can you pay online? Can you put your credit card in?
Yeah, now you could, yeah.
But I am sympathetic because people go by sort of, they talk to their neighbor and they go, oh, you know what, you don't have to pay these tickets in the town of Rye. They'll never do anything. And then if they never have done anything, again, to me, this is like step 4 or something. And I would like to see what we're going to do. My understanding is there's not a clear step 1, 2, 3. Rye has not said how they're interested perhaps in collecting these things, right? But we don't know, have they engaged a firm to do it? Have they started it? Who's going to pay for it? How's that going to work? I would like to see, again, I would be in favor of this as part of a program, but to me, again, it feels very heavy-handed. Like, to me, the culture of Rybrook is friendly. I've heard people say what happens in some of the other neighborhoods when, not neighborhoods, other communities, when you violate a law, they come after you. I mean, we don't tend to do that. Obviously, we haven't done that. And I think to jump to this as, I mean, we may think we're solving the problem, but I think we're just going to tick off a lot of people, and there's a way to do it more gradually. Again, to me, this is the end state.
Right.
So if I could vote for it, if it was going to be implemented, like conditionally, put the word in, subject to other steps being added, then this would be come into effect a year from now when other steps, if other steps have been added before it.
I think it would be, well, I mean, we would have to add that to the legislation if we were going to look at that. I mean, again, it does seem like some of this is subject to making sure that the town of Rye has sent out notices, which they haven't for over 10 years. When someone's, it's at most, someone's gotten one reminder, correct?
They said, it's our understanding, again, this is not our program, but it's our understanding that when a ticket goes unpaid and the date passes, then they send them, the past practice has been to send them one notice.
And that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now, I hope that they're looking to change that, but, so, and, we've averaged 250 to 260 unpaid parking tickets a year, it looks like, for the last 3 years. That's a lot of unpaid tickets. Now, that's not what this local law is addressing. This local law that's an issue, but what this local law is trying to address is the people that are ignoring the repeated ticketing.
Notices, yeah.
So that's the purpose and goal of this law, is to say, if you got a ticket, you got a letter, you ignored it, you got another ticket, you got a letter, it was ignored, you got a third ticket, you got a letter, and it was ignored, there's steps through the DMV if it's registered in New York State, and if the police either by parking in public streets or driving in public streets or in a fire lane or in a handicap, for instance, that if there was another occurrence, if they come upon those vehicles that have ignored the 3, that would be, they would be then subject to towing or booting. Again, but the board is tasked to provide a policy. You could increase the number of tickets. You could say 3 tickets since whatever date. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can go about this. I think if there's going to be a communication from the town to the people saying there's going to be a new program, I think the board does need to have a local law in place that they can refer to. And even if this local law will take effect in, I don't know, pick a date, June of this year, and the requirement is to notify that if you've got 3 tickets since whatever date, then you may be subject to tow or whatever. So I think whatever the policy decision that the board's comfortable with the date, the occurrences, the timeframes, I think it would be helpful to have that local law in place prior to the town sending that notification. This way they can refer to the new law that's in place.
All right, and one comment just for anyone watching at home or in the audience, just examples of the types of tickets that are on this list. It's an abandoned vehicle. It's no parking 2 to 6, so not the overnight parking. It's alternate side of the street parking. It's parking in fire lanes. It's no commercial parking. It's expired insurance. It's parking in a handicap zone. Parking wrong side to curb. But again, there's a very long list of unpaid tickets. The list of people who have 3 or more of these, and that's what we're talking about. It's not just anyone on this list. Talking about people that have 3 or more of these. the list gets a lot smaller. So as a proposal then, perhaps we want to put something in there to say to the effect that this local law will be put in place starting June 1st or after the town of Rye sends notice to anyone with an outstanding ticket that this policy is putting in place, whichever comes later.
How are we going to get the town of Rye to send out those notices?
I don't think we can compel them to send out those notices, but that's why we put a start date of when they do, because we're not sure when they're going to get around to it. Because I do agree that there needs to be some notice sent to these people. Again, my personal belief is the first notice is when you got the ticket, that you should have paid it. But when you get 3 tickets and you still don't pay it, that's a willful act.
Right,
Please,
and
Chief.
I was just gonna say, maybe if you set it to start at a later date, also in that notification, if we can do it through council, telling them, you come in and settle up beforehand, and maybe the fine is your original fine, not anything you accrued up until
I think that would be up to the town. I don't know whether we
Yeah.
could do that.
Yeah, I don't know if we can, if
We
would
can't do
be in
that.
direction
Yeah,
of the
that would be
fees.
up to the town, I think, because they're the ones that, although we set the fines, but I don't know whether,
The village attorneys handle this.
We can send a notice about the adoption of the local law, but as far as the fines, we would have to look into see whether we could negotiate that.
Like
Yeah,
you
it's,
mentioned,
Right.
you're fond of an amnesty, but at least give them 3 or 6 months to clear things up, and then it takes effect.
Right, and then we need a good feedback loop so that we don't go out and tow their car like they just paid.
Well, obviously.
Right, which
Yeah,
we
that-
haven't had a great,
No, but if
I'm
we're
not,
getting the information.
no, I like your idea. I just want to make sure the mechanics of it all work, because we're just finding out now, like, we need a constant way to say, hey, these 50 paid.
Hopefully, week
Uh,
for week.
Yeah.
Notice from the
all right,
There's
so,
also something that, there's nothing that would say that the board couldn't establish a policy that it's 3 tickets for anybody who has 3 tickets since whatever date, 2000, you know?
right, that it's a
You could
more
also do
recent
that. It's
date.
easy, we have the list, we can just purge prior to that from a,
Right, someone who
scofflaw
had 3
standpoint.
unpaid tickets from 2012 or
date you pick.
2015, or, and a lot of these are more recent. I'm seeing 2025. I'm seeing, oh gosh, why is this not working now?
If I was going to pick a date, it would be post-COVID, because again, a lot of people had the perception that a lot of rules were suspended during COVID. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but that, hey, I'm working from home, there's a lot more cars in my neighborhood. I don't know, but if I was going to pick a date, it would be like 3 years back or something,
Right.
2023 or
Who
something.
receives the revenue from the tickets?
we do.
100% of it?
If it's a local law violation.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
looking-
think there's anything wrong with trying to collect tickets that are outstanding from the past at
Yeah,
all.
that's a separate process, though. That can
Right.
still continue.
I don't think that we should say, okay, anything from COVID on.
No, we don't even have the ability to waive the prior one, so.
Right.
We're just talking about, this local law is not about the
what we
revenue.
do.
This
Okay.
local law is just the ability to immobilize the vehicle.
Yeah, and
So-
looking at these, the overwhelming majority of them are actually fairly recent. There are some that go back a ways, but a lot of them 2022, 23, 24, and 25.
That's recent.
Which is definitely recent. So, all right, as a proposal, let's do this. What I'd like to do, I think, and if the board's in agreement, let's keep the public hearing open.
Just need a date certain.
Let's move this public hearing to our next meeting. Maybe we will have, now we know that the town of Rye is still going to be looking back at owed tickets. Let's maybe make this policy 3 or more tickets since January 1st, 2020. And let's also, Keenan Bean potentially can look into the possibility of having some of these that have, that, I don't know, if we can reduce, have it be the original fines, potentially.
I think Susan had a very interesting idea about the task force, which is if the town of Rye is not going to cooperate with us, no matter what we do, it's basically meaningless.
Well-
We have to get assurances from the town of Rye
Right.
that they will actually send out the notices and they will actually do something. Not simply nod their heads and go, oh, Village of Rybrook, we feel so sorry that you.
Well,
have all these
can I make
I would say that while this is a problem in the village of Rybrook, it's a much larger problem in the village of Portchester.
I was gonna say, they have the same
I mean,
problem?
But,
They have the same-
but they need, but the town of Rye
Millions.
needs to feel some heat.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we pay taxes to the town of Rye.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I make a
Please,
recommendation?
Chris.
So, based on what the mayor said and what the rest of the board has just talked about, so I would just extend the public hearing to, maybe the second meeting in April, just to give yourselves more time.
April?
How about after?
March. Sorry, second,
Next month.
second meeting in March, sorry. And then I would say for 3 or more, since you want to say 2020 or 22, I'll leave, that's a board policy issue. Look to have we're just drafting a revised local law. We're not adopting. Starting June 1st, 2026, and that would also give us time to have conversations with the town of Rye, and I would suggest that maybe, the chief and I and maybe 2 board members would meet with representatives of the town in between now and then, so we can say, if we do this, will you send the notices out and things like that, and any other issues we want to talk about, we can maybe get that locked in, so when this local law comes back to the board, you might have more assurance that the town of Rye is willing to do that. And then it also gives time for council to look about the fee structure. So that would give everybody time. It would be a revised local law, and at that time, hopefully, we'll have more information from the town of Rye working with us on this issue.
All right, does that sound acceptable to everyone? Does anyone have any further comment?
Shockingly reasonable.
What date do you want for the 3 or more, since, just so we have to draft a law, 20 or 22?
All right, well, let's see. I mean, COVID did start hitting in
I
earnest.
think it's for 2021 here.
COVID was 20.
Let's see, was 20,
20
yeah.
and 21.
20.
Yeah.
Right,
It
there
was
are from
2020.
2021.
March of 20.
But I mean, it was kind of, March is when everything started to shut down and started,
Didn't get vaccinated until March of
But I
21.
must tell you
But
that
let's just, I think to keep it easy, we can just say January 1st of 2020, because, honestly, if you get 1 or 2 tickets, and the number of people who have 3 tickets in 2020 is, I don't even think there are any.
You do have some for 2021.
Yeah. But then, are we really going after one of the examples I was using was of the car service company. Those are all from 2012, I think, or 2013. And it was 3 different vehicles. We'd love to get the money on that, but do we think those vehicles are still in use in the village? Probably not.
Well, and don't forget how difficult it's going to be to implement this. We're talking not about a collection process, which is a whole different process. We're talking about a towing/booting process, and we can't boot in the parking, in the plazas. We can't boot in the office buildings. We can't boot in the driveways. Where can we boot?
But Mr.
We-
Crom,
Yes.
most people don't know we can't do that. And so therefore, the threat may be far more effective than the actuality.
Okay.
And I believe we can, it's my understanding, we can boot in the plazas for handicapped or fire lanes.
Okay. And I like that. That's good.
Right, those are the tickets
Yes.
that are important to
But
collect on, in
that,
my
when I
opinion.
looked at the list, if most of them were that kind of thing, then we'd be like, good, we're right after you. But most of the tickets are not that.
Most look like overnight.
Yeah.
Will your police car scanners pick up that when they drive by them?
Once we have the proper software,
Okay,
When is that?
that's what we need.
when the local laws are in effect, I can go and look for it.
Tickets go with the owner, so even if those
So
cars
it's
are no
a
longer operational,
conundrum.
the service would still be.
Gotcha.
Well, actually, the service that the town of Rye uses
Potentially.
supposedly will give
Yeah.
you the units.
So it's-
and
But we
Makes no
wouldn't be
difference
able to
whether
get,
the-
we wouldn't be able to boot the vehicle itself, because it's, but they would
Um,
still have to pay.
Is there any,
record of who-
my only question, is there any, will the police have any leeway? Or will they have to follow this when it flags?
Officers always have discretion.
That's what I
Yeah,
meant.
there is
I
discretion.
meant discretion, not
But,
leeway.
and there is discretion, but again, if you have,
All this time,
if you've gotten,
you know.
let's say you've gotten 5 parking tickets in the village of Rybrook, and you have willfully, and again, this is a willful act. If you are getting multiple parking violations, and you were refusing to pay them,
Oh, okay.
it's a willful act.
Right, but it's, can I make another comment there?
Yeah.
Look, it's a diverse, I have learned something as a trustee. This village is way more diverse than I realized. We have 2 school systems. We have homeless people. I went to a training at Pace University Law School and saw in the Bolingbrook school system, there's no homeless children. In the Portchester school system, there's a lot of homeless kids. And almost 20% of our residents go to Portchester schools. Some of those people may be choosing between food, medicine, whatever, and the word on the street was, you don't have to pay this $100 thing when you're looking at your budget. I just fear that, and the way the mechanism is set up, again, if I park in my driveway and park, I'm not going to get towed. But they will, because they don't necessarily have. They may be the least likely to have an off-street parking spot. I worry about that. I'm someone that follows the rules. I'm someone that pays. We all are. Probably wouldn't be. We wouldn't be in this role, right? But I'm sensitive. Maybe I've watched too many Hollywood movies. But all of a sudden, I mean, everybody in a suburban neighborhood, a community like ours, depends on a car to get to work. And now all of a sudden, your car is towed away. You come out. Losing a day's work for some of these people is catastrophic. Again, maybe it's only 5% of our community, but it's not zero.
Right, but at the same time, this is something that we are going to give notice. These are rules that they violated. If we can find that they can pay the original fines without this happening, because the other option is basically saying that the rules don't matter for that person.
I was going to say, Jen, I'll let you take this, but I have never heard of poverty as being a defense to a violation of the law.
That is true.
It's really that simple. What laws can you violate and simply say, I'm poor, and therefore it's okay? It's not a legitimate defense. It's something we all
Right.
can feel.
All I'm looking for is a way to say, I would love to see, instead of going back, it going forward. So again, sometimes people have ways of justifying things. They think, you know what, that no parking sign shouldn't have been on this street. It doesn't make sense. I'm going to park here. There's no problem. I don't know. People have weird ways of justifying things. I'd rather have it be clear. And one of the things I worry about, without a local paper, getting the word out to people is not going to be so easy. If in the old days there would be a front page story on the Rybrook News that would say, "Hey, there's this whole big program," we would have people. I worry about a public hearing where we're not having testimony from the public. I would like to see some of these people that should have gone to court to plead their case, but didn't really think there was any. It wasn't being enforced, essentially, right? These tickets.
But I think that's why we need a commitment from the town of Rye to send out notices.
Right.
Right, and I think that's what we're discussing is the notification process, a delayed start, making sure people understand what's going to happen, and then also looking into the possibility of paying the original fines on the past ones. But
Right.
then I think we really need to look at moving forward that this is going to be in effect, and we're going to put public notice out there. People will get the notification. So, again, I think this is why, we're going to give this a month. We're going to give ourselves a month to think about this again, get some answers, both on what is capable within our own legislation, but also meet with the town of Rye to find out exactly what steps they're going to be taking. We can come to terms a little bit better on what we think the appropriate date is and go from there.
Yeah, no, I'm in favor of all that.
Okay. All right, can I have a motion and second then to keep the public hearing open?
To adjourn the public hearing
To the date of
March,
March, what's today, 24th?
Yes.
Because it'll be the
Move to
same.
adjourn to March 24th.
and if I could just say, we're adjourning prior to doing the final act on that, you're also making a motion to modify the local law to have 3 or more for those that have 3 or more violations since January 1st, 2020, with a delayed start to June 1st, 2026.
Or, I was going to say, or when Town of Rye.
I'm hoping that not being a local law, because that would be really odd to have
Yeah,
in our
it would be very
But I'm
difficult
hoping we'll
to
have more
enforce that.
information, and then,
Okay,
based
we
on
can
that
push
meeting.
it, we can push it back.
Yeah,
and
having
see
the
what it
The
says.
date, or you could,
Having the
Not
effective
adopt even.
date of a local law be reliant on something like
Yeah.
whether a town provided notice, how is a general member of the public supposed to know,
That, right,
has that notice happened? If it's
Okay.
objective, it's much better.
okay.
so it's 3 or more since January 1st, 2020, and a delayed start to June 1st, 2026.
Right, and again, we can change this again.
Or you
know,
could not
a month
adopt
from
it
now.
even at the end of the day. It's up to you.
Absolutely. Okay, I think, so can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved?
Second.
All right. Greg?
If you,
Wait, Sam wants
no,
to say.
I was going to say, if you're watching, I know this isn't a well-watched,
Against the State of the Union, this
Yes.
piece of cake.
but if you feel strongly about this thing, please come to the, what's it called?
The next
The next public hearing on this subject and state your opinion. This is the way the sausage is made. We got to hear from you.
Okay. So Trustee Epstein.
Yes.
Trustee Heiser.
Yes.
Trustee Crom.
Yes.
Trustee Morlino.
Yes.
Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you. Resolution.
If I could
oh,
just add
yes,
too, I just
please.
want to give any sense to the public, the delayed start is simply about when the law would take effect for potentially impounding or not towing or booting vehicles. But any fines or any tickets would still be issued, you still have to pay. This is not
Yes.
a,
It does not mean that
does
you
not mean
can't,
you
that
can
you
ignore
don't
the
have to pay
tickets.
your tickets between now and June 1st.
correct.
And any previous tickets, and anyone watching at home who has a previous ticket that is owed, please know the Town of Rye is going to be issuing letters. There may be, they may have a consultant hired, they may do it internally, but, the idea is to collect the money owed that you probably should have paid as soon as you got the ticket. All right, moving
And
along.
Don, just a point
Yes.
that you raised,
Yeah.
because I am a bleeding heart. If somebody acknowledges that they haven't paid the tickets and they owe the money, then they can say, but could you cut me some slack?
Yeah.
But at least acknowledge that you're in default.
Right.
Right, and there is some discretion in the courts as well.
Right.
Yeah.
That should be explained to people. Yeah.
7.6 and 7.7 should be tabled.
Oh, okay.
Good night.
All right, I was about to move to 7.6. All right, so we are going to table 7.6, 7.7. We're going to move, I don't mind that. We are going to move right on to resolution number 8, considering an agreement between the Village of Rybrook and Data Work Plus for RICI live scan maintenance.
Okay, whereas the Village of Rybrook Police Department utilizes a Ricky scanning system to assist the police department operations, and whereas Rybrook Police Department needs to provide maintenance for the Ricky scanning system to maintain its effectiveness, and whereas the Village of Rybrook received a one-year proposal from DataWorks Plus of Greenville, South Carolina, for a cost of $3,100, and whereas the Village of Rybrook is interested in accepting this proposed agreement, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the proposed one-year agreement with DataWorks Plus of Greenville, South Carolina, for a total cost of $3,100, subject to the modification by council, and be it further resolved, the mayor and administrator are authorized to execute and deliver all documents necessary or appropriate to accomplish the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
And I understand this is in regards to fingerprinting. Chris, if you want to give a little background.
This would
Can I ask
be
one
the chief that would do that.
Is it Works Plus or Work Plus? I see it spelled both ways.
Good question. Yeah, and in the first, now therefore be it resolved, it says work. And actually in the third whereas.
Okay. We'll correct the resolution.
Eagle eye here.
Eric, do you want to give an update?
So this is just a standard maintenance agreement for something that has come off of their standard warranty, and we're just, going out annually.
What is it? Do you want to explain the Ricky
Oh, Ricky,
scanning
it's,
system?
what we do criminal fingerprints on. It's basically a live scan system where you scan people's fingerprints, and take photographs without ink, and you do it digitally. And it's submitted automatically up to the state. and the
Cool.
FBI.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Well, I only have one question. Are there competitors to this service, or is that the only company around?
That's the only one that currently has a state bid in New York.
Got it. Thank you.
Good business.
It's a great business to be in.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, Greg.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
And Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 9, considering approving use of village streets for the 2026 Westchester Triathlon event.
Now therefore be resolved that subject to the final approval of the police department, the Westchester Endurance Corp. is authorized to use Rybrook streets for the 2026 Westchester Triathlon on Sunday, September 20th, 2026, in a letter date as described in a letter dated February 12th, 2026. And be it further resolved, the village streets shall be used in compliance with the terms and conditions of the Rybrook Police Department.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I know this is an annual event. I don't remember hearing any complaints or concerns.
Do we know the exact times that they're going to be doing this?
I think it's listed in the letter.
Very early in the morning,
Yeah,
7:30
typically
to
it's-
8:45.
Because the 20th is Erev Yom Kippur. And so, want to make sure it doesn't interfere with people's ability to drive around.
Yeah, it usually ends, it says in the letter that it's going to end around 10:35. And that's ending
fine. In the
back at
morning is fine.
Playland, so it's going to be fairly, it's probably earlier than that, well earlier than that. Let's see, the expected window for biking in Rybrook is 7:30 to 8:45 a.m.
Right.
In that case, it will be no problem.
You already know the holiday schedule?
Any
Wow.
any other questions or comments?
Although I do have a particular objection to the whole idea of a triathlon. Excessive exercise that's involved. I'll try not to let my prejudice sway me here.
All right.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
And Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you, and we wish them luck on the event again. Resolution number 10, considering setting a public hearing, modifying Chapter 8, Section 8 of the Village Code regarding, yep, okay, regarding Architectural Review Board jurisdiction.
Okay, now therefore be resolved that a public hearing will be held by the Board of Trustees on Tuesday, March 24th, 7:30 PM, on a proposed local law amending Chapter 8, Section 8 of the Village Code concerning ARB jurisdiction.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
And again, I was looking at this when the agenda came out, and it was concerning me, saying, wait a second, don't these things need to be reviewed? And I'm realizing, well, they are still being reviewed.
Yes.
Just this is more ARB review, which is simply looking at the aesthetics of it, not the actual siting and other issues regarding them. I was like, wait a second, generators, but this is simply ARB review of it. And this does come from a recommendation from the ARB and from our building inspector.
That's correct, yeah. These are items that over time, they feel these are items that could be removed by ARB review, but as the mayor said, they will still be reviewed by the building department.
Any questions or comments from the board? Again, this is just setting the public hearing. We'll have more time to comment on the proposed legislation as well, the merits of the legislation.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Our next two resolutions have to do with the moratoria that we imposed. I can't believe it's been 6 months ago, and yet it has, that we're really looking for more information on. So resolution number 11, considering a 6-month extension of the moratorium imposed by local law 3 of 2025 for the review and approval of applications for battery energy storage systems in the village of Rybrook.
Whereas on July 8, 2025, the Board of Trustees introduced a local law establishing a moratorium on the review of battery energy storage systems, or BESS systems, in the village while we study, analyze, and determine potential appropriate revisions to our code regarding those items. And whereas on August 19th, the Board of Trustees adopted the local law for the moratorium. And whereas local law number 3 of 2025 took effect upon filing with the New York State Secretary of State on August 26, 2025, and whereas the 6-month moratorium was declared by local law number 3 of 2025 and is set to expire on February 26, 2026, unless otherwise extended by the board, and whereas the board has been diligently considering feasible and suitable potential reviews, amendments, or additions to the village code with respect to those systems, and whereas the board continues to be concerned about the potential detrimental effects of the BESS systems on the health, safety, welfare, and quality of life of the residents of the village of Rybrook, and whereas further study is needed reviewing the possibility of amending the village code to regulate BESS within the village of Rybrook, and whereas the local law of 2025 authorizes the board to act by resolution to extend the moratorium for additional periods as in its sole discretion deems necessary to allow the village to study, analyze, and determine potential appropriate revisions to the code regarding battery energy storage systems, and to enact any such amendments. And whereas the extension of the moratorium is a Type 2 action pursuant to seeker, and accordingly no environmental review is required, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby finds that extending the moratorium will allow the village to continue to maintain the status quo to effectively protect the public interest and welfare while continuing to study, analyze, and determine the potential appropriate revisions and amendments to the village code regarding BESS, and be it further resolved that the board extends an additional 6 months the moratorium contained in the local law 3 of 2025 with respect to review and approval of the applications for BESS in the village of Rybrook.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved?
Second.
All right, so again, this is something that really is becoming more common, something that we needed to study. We did have a report, thank you, Jenny,
Sure.
for reporting on that previously. And I think the last time we had a conversation among our board, I think there was some direction given on where we like to see this going, but we're not there yet. This is something, and the only question I have, Chris, are we aware of any applications that have come in that 6-month period?
Not that I'm aware of.
And is there further comment?
Yeah, I'll just note, I did provide to the board, in response to some of the discussion we had in January when I came and gave a report, some of the direction that I received from the board is that you might be interested in exploring a floating zone option for regulation of BESS. So I did provide to you, and it's in your materials for today, a memo that summarizes what 2 municipalities in Westchester have done similar to that. 2 municipalities have enacted a floating zone option for the regulation of BESS, and that's the town of Ossining and the village of Tarrytown. So the memo summarizes those provisions and then gives a recommendation for kind of pulling the best pieces of what Ossining did and what Tarrytown did to tailor it to Rybrook. And there are some recommendations in that memo. We don't have to discuss them tonight. I know you've had a long agenda. I'm happy to come back, at a later time when you've had a chance to kind of review and digest those recommendations. But treetop level summary would be adopting a BESS floating district for Tier 1 and Tier 2, but have a carve-out for the residential, the smaller residential scale BESS, similar to what the town of Ossining did, and you can take a look at what they did. But basically a residential Tier 1 BESS, so up to a maximum of 80 kilowatt hours would be permitted for one family, either attached or detached, and 2 family dwellings as an accessory use. And we can talk about interior installations versus exterior installations, something you would put in your garage versus something you would put on the exterior for your home, and what makes sense as far as a permanent approval process. Initial thoughts were maybe the interior is subject to a building permit, an electrical permit through the building department, whereas exterior, where you have more sighting, locational issues, that might require planning board approval. But then the non-residential scale, Tier 1 and Tier 2, would require a submission to the Board of Trustees, a zoning petition, requesting to have the property zoned to allow that BES. So that gives the most flexibility to the board, and allows you to deal with these on more of a case-by-case basis as we get more information. So that's just sort of an initial suggestion to consider, and we can discuss it at a later date.
Thank you, and thank you for providing that. I'm going to apologize that I did not have time to read it.
It was provided late, so no
And
apologies needed.
part of that has to do with being back from vacation and dealing with an injury. But I think after Thursday, I'll have plenty of time to read it. So. Any questions or comments for the board? And I think, just hearing the overview of this memo, I think it really took into consideration a lot of what we had discussed at our previous meeting. Any questions or comments from the board? Yeah, Trustee Crum.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this, so bear with me. Thank you to council. To me, this is like the intersection. I was in the electric power industry for 20 years, quite a while ago, but I'm familiar with kilowatt hours and kilowatts and whatnot. To me, this is an intersection of battery technology, emerging building codes. For instance, New York State's building code, electrical building code just changed, I believe, late 2025. They were very thorough on this. On some aspects of this, certainly the residential part, a lot of the things in your memo, they cover very explicitly in the New York State Building Code. But anyway, my point is, it's the intersection of electrical battery technology issues, number one. Number two, building code issues. Number three, zoning issues. I feel like we're getting a good handle on zoning issues, which are not easy. I mean, these are not, zoning 101. This is like a master's class in zoning. And it's the same sort of thing, because there's also emerging issues. There's another thing emerging, and it's actually already here, where you can do bidirectional charging of electric vehicles. In other words, electrical vehicles have massive batteries, let's say between 50 kilowatt hours and 100 kilowatt hours in a Tesla. And there's already Tesla units that have bidirectional charging ability. In other words, you not only charge it from your house, but you could use it as emergency backup. And this is something that's impacting this issue. Like, the electrical code in New York says 40 kilowatts, you can only have 40 kilowatt hours in your garage. But what if you have an 80 kilowatt hour car? Do you have to park that outside to charge? And also to fuel your house? So what I'm saying is, I don't mind extending this moratorium. I think it's a good idea. But I do think we need some more process to have staff, our building department and/or an outside expert give us testimony on where the lines should be drawn into how big. For instance, the City of Rye, from your first memo, Jennifer, your first memo, you pointed out that the City of Rye had a public hearing on this, and they had a lot of outcry about the fire risk. By the way, New York City is very, very conservative on these limits. So, whereas the residential limit in New York State Code is 80 kilowatt hours, Tier 1 stops at 600 kilowatt hours. Rye drew the limit at 80 kilowatt hours. They said, listen, we'll allow these things up to 80 kilowatt hours. My understanding is most home systems, if you had it to back up a solar system, would be in the area of 20 to 30 kilowatt hours. So 80 is pretty big. To me, we shouldn't be talking about Tier 2 at all. But anyway, back to the original point. Sorry to wander. But I think we need some way to have a recommendation on the technical side to this group, because it's eye-watering enough on the zoning stuff, but, to say to most people, should the line be drawn at 80 kilowatt hours like the City of Rye did? Should it be 600 kilowatt hours like, was it Osmond did, or more? And the fire risk, I guess the other thing is, the fire risk issues are emerging. There's been fires, my understanding, in Orange County. So there's fire risks. We're very sensitive to fire here. We've had very strict fire codes. We have a very good fire department, as we saw earlier tonight, but we also depend on Portchester for a huge part of our firefighting thing. Portchester, even though our guys might end up being trained on some of this, we have to also depend on Portchester being trained up. So anyway, I would like to have I don't want to say a task force, but I would like to have a date, instead of waiting another 6 months, set a date where we could have some technical recommendations. I don't know whether it's from the building department or who.
I think,
but-
I think other municipalities that have, endeavored to adopt best regulations have relied on an outside expert. I mean, this is highly technical
Right.
information. I mean, you have a very good grasp on it, but I think it's, it's outside of the wheelhouse of, the general public for sure. And I'm sure, many members of the board. So while I can certainly advise on zoning and the planning aspects of it, I certainly, and no one in my office can advise on the technical, scientific aspects of what you're considering. So
Right.
if the board is interested in looking for proposals for an outside consultant to assist with this, we can look for somebody. There might also be opportunities through NYSERDA to have a representative from NYSERDA speak to the board.
Yes, that's a
'cause
good idea.
They have specific individuals within NYSERDA that are kind of tasked with training on these issues.
Educating us.
Yes.
Yes,
yes.
absolutely.
I imagine other municipalities will want to think about this as well, just like you just got the task force together, way back, Chris, for the Con Edison. We may want to have that expertise shared with the rest of the municipalities as well, so that way everybody can learn at the same time. But I have one question for you, Mr. Crom.
Yes.
If the Teslas have 80 kilowatt capacity and people are garaging them now,
Yeah.
so we already have this, so that's
N-
part.
No, but it's not discharging, it's
only.
it's charging, but it is an issue. It's an issue.
So that is a factor in these decisions as well, because we have it.
Right, so we have electric vehicles with massive batteries being stored in garages, but the regulations there are sort of automotive regulations, and the fire code is starting to
Catch up.
to this.
Okay, so that's a factor
So-
I think that we should think about as well, because it's here. So delaying is not going to be a good thing.
Right, well,
If we keep on kicking the can.
As an example, what Rye did is they drew the limit at 80 kilowatt hours, which is pretty low, and they exempted automobiles, which, I don't know, implicitly, did they say you could have bidirectional charging of an electric vehicle parked in a garage? I don't know. Because there's also, but the building codes, the New York State Building Code takes care of some of this. I don't think we have to draft a lot of these provisions. What Rye did, City of Rye, is they referred very heavily to the New York State Building Code, which was just updated. They said 80 kilowatt hours, but you must follow the New York State Code, which says you can only have 40 kilowatt hours in your garage, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yeah, certainly any of these installations would be subject to building permit, electrical permit through our building department. The question is, what additional regulation beyond that would you
Right.
want to impose?
Chris, I think there's clearly validity to having a primer on the technical aspects of this. What form would you see that taking?
I mean, I think having NYSERDA come in probably makes the most sense if they'd be willing to I don't know if they'd come in just to see us or if they would come in and do like a educational program, and we can ask. I mean, if you're looking to have them ask, we can ask them to
I was
do
going to say,
that
this
and
is
host
so
it.
beyond my ken. I cannot imagine making an intelligent decision on a topic that's as technical as this.
I think this sort of, if they come in, not only will we educate ourselves, educate the public, especially if it's a public meeting.
We can ask. We can ask.
If it's feasible.
No harm in asking.
No.
I feel like we have to have something, otherwise we're just going to be here in 6 months saying, let's extend it again, because,
And Chris?
Yes?
I would think that the village of Portchester would be interested in this. I mean, maybe we could, dare break down that wall and have two villages sit in on the same meeting.
No, I'm thinking we could host probably something we might host something bigger even, where other municipalities might be interested. But let me see what research I can do. I might even be able to do something through WMOA.
Exactly.
Right.
We're all going to have
Give a little thought
to,
that.
we're all
But-
doing the
but
same
either
thing.
case, what I can assure you is, in other locations where applications have come in, it's been a really heated issue in those communities where there's no legislation that exists. So extending the moratorium, which is what we're doing now, makes sense, and let's try to get as much information as we can so that we find the right local law for Rybrook.
Yeah, we would want to make sure
Right.
that we have the legislation in place, and, you know, what we've seen also, we haven't had any applications come to us in the last 6 months. We're probably not going to see any applications.
Floods, but we want to get ahead of the
next
curve
six.
before
But
the
we
next
want
one.
to, right, we want to have legislation in place before we start getting any of these applications.
Yes.
All right, so I think we have our direction that we're going. All right, so again, this is on the extension. We do have a motion second on extending the moratorium for another 6 months, and I think we have some good advice of where we want to go next on this so that we are able to make a decision and not hold this, you know, in place for 2 years while we grind the wheels here, so. All right, Chris, do you mind calling the roll?
Sure, absolutely. Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Hold on.
Whatever your name is, yeah.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 12, considering a 6-month extension of the moratorium imposed by Local Law 4 of 2025 for the review and approval of applications for the conversion of commercial to residential development in the Village of Rybrook. I think that's all it says, I should say.
Okay, give me 1 second to catch up.
We can get rid of that last line off of the resolution title.
Yes. Got it. Okay. Whereas on July 8th, 2025, the board adopted a local law establishing a moratorium on the review of and approval of applications concerning for commercial to residential conversion in the Village of Rybrook while we study, analyze, and determine appropriate revisions to the code. And whereas on August 19th, the board adopted the local law, and that local law number 4, 2025, after it was adopted, was filed with the New York State Secretary of State on August 26, 2025. And whereas the 6-month moratorium declared by that law is set to expire on February 26, 2026, unless otherwise extended by the board. And whereas the village board has been diligently considering feasible and suitable potential revisions, amendments, and additions to the code with respect to commercial to residential conversions. And whereas the board continues to be concerned about the vibrancy of the village's commercial areas and protecting the commercial tax base while also recognizing the existence of statewide housing shortage. And whereas the village board has found that further study is needed to consider amendments to the zoning mechanisms in the code to enhance the village's commercial areas and preserve its tax base. And whereas local law also authorizes the board to extend the moratorium for additional periods that its sole discretion deems necessary. And whereas the extension of the moratorium is a type 2 action pursuant to seeker, so no further environmental review is required, now therefore be resolved that the village board hereby finds that extending the moratorium will allow the village to continue to maintain the status quo to effectively protect the public interest and welfare and ensure while it continues to study, analyze, and determine potential appropriate revisions and amendments to the code regarding conversions of existing commercial and non-homestead to residential or homestead developments, and be it further resolved that the board extends for an additional 6 months the moratorium contained in local law number 4 of 2025 with respect to review and approval of applications for conversion of existing commercial non-homestead development to residential homestead development in the Village of Rybrook.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
And again, this is not, you know, this has nothing to do with someone in a single-family house or doing work to their home. This is really, we're talking about the larger properties and the loss of commercial development that we've had in the Village of Rybrook. I think we're awaiting a memo regarding a build-out analysis along with other information. Do either of you want to address this?
Yeah, so my office has been working with your planning consultants, Hardesty and Hanover, who is doing a build-out analysis after identifying relevant sites throughout the village, and then analyzing build-out of those sites under various scenarios. And then our office is going to be helping kind of analyze what the tax implications will be, estimated approximate tax implications under each of those build-out scenarios. So just to give the board some data and some information to use to kind of decide whether any zoning changes are needed to help preserve your commercial tax base.
Thank you. And I would start to describe the homestead versus non-homestead base proportions and how it affects the residents, both the commercial and residential residents of Village of Rybrook. But Chris, you do that so much better.
Well, right now, the tax rates for non-homestead properties are much higher than the homestead tax rate. What that means is that for the same dollar of assessed value, a commercial property who falls into the non-homestead is paying much more for the same dollar of a residential property, meaning 1 and 2 families. So there's a concern that if we lose more commercial properties or non-homestead properties, that's going to shift and create more, one, you're going to have more residential properties paying a higher percentage of the tax base, but two, that there'll be another shift that the remaining commercial properties will have to make up the difference, which will send that tax rate even higher. So the one that's already already higher because of the local law on homestead-based proportions that keeps that separation. If you adopt if we see more conversions of commercial to residential, it'll hurt the commercial tax base, which is already paying a greater share. And it also could impact the residential, which is going to be taking on a bigger piece of the levy. So this is something we're concerned that our commercial properties will many of them will change to the residential in a way that could really cause a disruption on the tax base. So we want to make sure that if there's legislation that could take place to make sure that if there, for instance, is going to be more conversions to residential, that it's residential that might fall into the non-homestead class, not the homestead class, which can help still preserve it while still allowing the consideration and for the board to allow for residential development.
Right, and that's really what's key to us is that there's in the open space that currently isn't used. We want there to be able to find uses for this, and we know that there's interest in those. But at the same time, we need to be able to make sure that we're protecting our residents. And again, this has to do with both the non-homestead and the homestead residents. That we don't want our commercial properties having to face a larger burden, and we don't want a tremendous amount of that burden shifting to the more homestead or residential properties. So this is just a pause. This is not saying that we are not open to development. Certainly, the Village of Rybrook is open to development. We just want to make sure it fits, and that this is going to be done in a way that, again, is protecting the taxpayers of Rybrook.
Yes, and we should say, too, there is also a hardship provision where if there was an application that came in and a hardship was demonstrated, that the board could still review that application during the moratorium.
Right. Thank you, Chris. Any questions or comments from the board? Yes, Trustee.
I think the first resolution, resolve clause, really says it all in terms of what we need.
I'm anxiously awaiting the study because, to me, the devil's in the details. As Chris said, and you, Mr. Mayor, the tax rate per $1,000 of assessed value is 60% higher. The numbers work out to 60% higher for the commercial. But if you have an aging commercial base that doesn't have a high assessed value and you bring in new residential that has a very high value, it might more than make up for it. I mean, I'm interested in seeing, I'm all for making sure that we have an excellent tax base. We have about 20% of our taxes are paid by the commercial, which seems like a nice ratio. I've also noticed that 20% of our land is used by commercial. So it feels about right, but I'm also interested in the details, which we're going to get. The other thing I would say to people, and Chris has pointed this out before, don't mistake when you say homestead and non-homestead, it kind of loosely converts to commercial and residential, but there are exceptions. In other words, there could be things that appear to be commercial that are really could be quite dense residential. So I would say, again, the devil's in the details, and stay tuned. The community should stay tuned and make your voices heard too. Because I've also heard from, I just want to say I've heard, and this is probably not the right time because I'm in favor of extending it, but I've heard from quite a number of people that they like the character of Rybrook, and they like the residential. It's a green leafy residential village. They like that. I mean, they're not rooting for more dense commercial sort of things. So it's going to be interesting. That's all I'll say.
Interesting,
Yeah.
and at the same time, it's and what I try to explain to people is that the commercial development helps their taxes, and especially in the school districts. So, and unfortunately, most of our commercial development is in the southern end of the village, and so a lot of it is away from the Glenbrook School District.
Well, one of the beauty of a lot of our commercial properties in Rybrook is that they are kind of pocketed away for the most part. They don't really have, they're not high rise, looking over the residential properties. They're kind of tucked in a lot of ways off the streets, off the main street, or less visible. I mean, I think that's one of the really nice things. So how do you protect that? You protect that through the zoning. And how do we look at that? That's why we want to really kind of take that pause and say, what's the best zoning that'll provide the protections we're looking for and still encourage and allow for, property development.
Absolutely. All right, so again, this is not Rybrook saying that we're against development. We're just taking a pause here to make sure we have all of our information. And again, Chris, I would ask the same question. Have we heard of any large applications coming in the last 6 months?
Formal applications, no, but there's been conversations with developers about some of our commercial properties.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions or comments from the board? Again, this is just an extension of the moratorium that's in place.
Nope, good idea.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
And Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 13, considering awarding contract number 2603, elevator maintenance.
Whereas the Village of Rybrook has solicited bids for contract 2603 elevator maintenance, and whereas it was advertised in the Journal News, or Lowhead is the official newspaper, on January 30th, 2026, and was also made available on the Empire State Purchasing Group bid system. And whereas at 10 a.m. on Friday, February 13th, all bids were opened, and summarized below. We received 3 bids. One was from New York Elevator, of Stony Point, New York. Another is from Specialized Elevator Corp., doing business as Excel Elevator and Escalator of Secaucus, New Jersey. And the third was from LJM Construction, doing business as Keystone Elevator Group in Carmel, New York. Now therefore be resolved that following review of the bids, the Administrator and Superintendent of Public Works and the Village Board of Trustees has determined that the lowest responsible bidder meeting the requirements of this contract is LJM Construction, doing business as Keystone Elevator Group of Carmel, New York, for a total base bid amount of $45,900, with mechanic rates at $150 an hour, $225, and $225 in each of the following years, and the helper rates at $100, $150, and $150 through May 31st, 2030. And be it further resolved, the mayor and administrator are authorized to execute and deliver all documents necessary or appropriate to accomplish the purposes of the resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
Motion.
I heard them both at the same time. I don't know
they
who the
both-
motion and the
Didn't
second.
hear the second. Who's second?
I will accept second.
So this is a 5-year,
Right.
5-year bid, and there's rates for mechanic helpers and mechanics.
Thank you, Chris. And we don't have a ton of elevators in the village in our buildings. I think I'm counting 4. There may be more than that. 5, I guess.
Huh? 3.
3?
Yeah, we have Village Hall, we
There
have the
two at
firehouse,
William?
and Highway.
There's only one at the highway, right? So 1 here, 1 there, 1.
Yeah, there's 3.
Okay, only 3. All right. My only concern about this, I know at a recent, and I think I talked to you about this, Chris, but maybe I forgot to. At the most recent library meeting that I was at, there was some discussion because, the library has a limited number of elevators as well. Is there, and again, this is, we're looking into this for this contract. But maybe in future contracts, we want to look into if there's a way that between the Village of Portchester, the Village of Rybrook, the shared library, perhaps there's a way we could share services on this and see if we can get a better contract if it's shared among, because then it's
Sure.
economy of scale when you start to expand the number of elevators.
This
Yes.
is going out 5 years, so.
No, I know.
No, but when there's other bids,
It's already
and we
been
do
bid.
things, and
Yeah.
we are pleased with the pricing here. I'm very pleased, so
Good.
we don't want to see it go away, but we will keep that in mind if there's other types of services where we could do that together. It's great. We certainly have done that with the schools too over the years.
Yeah, so you may want to talk to, the folks in Portchester, see what, And I mean, I just know it was an idea that came up, so.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right, any other questions or comments?
You already know what my comment is about.
I know what your, please, no, but please say your comment. Because I always like to hear.
It's still hard for me to believe that all three of these people bid on the same thing, and one of them is 300% more than the other.
Yep.
But they
But
bid.
Somehow
the
that-
two are incredibly close.
Yeah, the other two
they
were very close, but one of them is, a lot more. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 14, considering approval of the minutes for the meeting held on January 27th, 2026.
Now therefore be resolved that the Village Board of Trustees approves the minutes for the meeting held on January 27th, 2026.
Thank you. Chris, can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Did anyone have any
Thank you.
comments on that?
I'll take second from you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I wasn't.
All right, administrators report.
That's right.
I have a question, if the board is open to it. We did receive the Town of Rise homestead resolution.
Oh, okay.
So the board, if you're okay, if you refresh your agenda, we did put it in here as a backup, if the board is
Let me
willing to
refresh
consider
my
it.
agenda. I did not refresh it since the meeting started, so.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move to resolution number 15.
Which is simply adopting the homestead-based proportions that the Town of Rye already approved. They just asked us to concur.
Right, and again, I don't think in my time here, we've never had any comment on this.
No,
This
and
is-
it's actually a town decision anyhow, but
Right.
they do like to make sure. But these are the base proportions that are most favorable to the homestead properties.
Right, and this is, and again, the idea is to bring these closer together as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
It's been hovering pretty much the same, but again, that a lot of that has to do with what development is in here. And as
board
Chris
okay?
said, this is a decision made by the town. Do we want to put this on? I mean, this helps with the budget process. I'm fine acting on the resolution now, unless anyone has any concerns.
They do all the calculations, right?
They do the
They
calculations.
did the valuations and the calculations.
Yes.
Done by the town
Yeah.
in coordination with the New York State Office of Real Property Tax Services.
Is there any way for us to check it? No, right? So
We're just nodding our heads.
we're just,
Rubber
yeah.
stamping.
Like, if you say so, is what we're saying.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
they like to know that we are aware and that we're comfortable with the decision, and the reason is, there is flexibility. The board, you can adopt rates that are not the most beneficial for the homestead properties. You can do anything in between. You could do anything from the actual distribution to this distribution. This one is always selected because it's most favorable to the homestead property.
But I'll have to have a conversation with you sometime, because the last tax year, the increase fell disproportionately on the homestead.
No, the other way.
I mean, in terms of the increase of the taxes that they paid, no?
This is where we talked, there's several things that come into play here. The
Yeah.
base proportions looks at the actual values of both, and it gives you a proportion, and based on how those values are changing over time. And in theory, you hope that it's going to move closer to what is actually the case. But right now, I'll give you, for instance, the actual distribution should be, if homestead did not exist, would be 87.4 of the tax levy would be paid by the homestead properties, and 15.26 would be paid by the non-homestead properties. That's if the homestead didn't exist. What this is doing is saying 79.83 and change is would be paid by the homestead properties of the roll, instead of the 84 or whatever I just said, and 20 would be paid by the commercial properties instead of the 15. So what it's doing is it's keeping a ratio that existed many years ago prior to Homestead being reval being enacted. This law is in place because the town of Rye is a full market, and when reval, the board had a choice to put these homestead-based proportions in. What it did is it kind of, in the beginning, it locked in pre-reval a percentage that was paid by homestead and a percentage that were paid by the non-homestead properties. And then post-reval, it kind of kept those relationships. And over the years, it's supposed to get closer and closer to be one rate. It never really happens. So what this does is this is based on the adjustments and the shifts that occurred since then. Every year it gets readjusted. And what this represents is the choice of saying we're going to provide the most favorable outcome to the homestead properties, which is the 1 and 2 family homes.
But how do they do that mechanically? I'll talk to you offline.
That's a whole different
Okay.
formula. That's a formulatic process
Yeah.
that they do with ORPS, New York State Office of Real Property Tax Services.
Okay.
Based on the sales, based on the assessed value shifts, and other factors that come into
Okay, for now, I'll just nod my head.
And again, as Chris said, we could change this, but the way we would change this is by increasing the tax rate to our homestead properties.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I wouldn't be in favor of.
No, neither would I. Of course, I love our commercial people, too.
Yes, we do love them, and we want more of
There
them.
was much more commercial in the other sections that
What other
comprise
sections?
of the town of Rye, not just Rybrook. I
This
thought it
is
was-
strictly in the Rybrook tax
Oh,
area.
thank you. Thank you. Never mind.
Nope.
All right, so if everyone's comfortable with it, we will add on this resolution. So resolution number 15, considering the adoption of local adjustments for homestead and non-homestead base proportions.
Whereas on January 25th, 2005, the Board of Trustees adopted a local law relating to the adoption of the homestead-based proportions, and whereas the town of Rye assessors prepared homestead and non-homestead-based proportions for the Village of Rybrook's review, and whereas on February 19th, 2026, the Town of Rye Town Board adopted a resolution that establishes different rates, 2 separate rates for the provision under the real property tax law for the 1 homestead-based proportion at a rate equal to 79.834242, and 2, the non-homestead-based proportion equal to a rate of 20.165758, and whereas authorize the town assessor to file a statement of locally determined homestead-based proportions pursuant to the real property tax law, commonly referred to as the homestead tax option, based on the 2025 assessment roll, which was completed, verified, and filed in 2025 for the 26-27 village budget and tax rates. And whereas the Board of Trustees also wishes to concur and adopt the local adjustments to these homestead-based proportions that will be used to establish the tax rate for both homestead and non-homestead properties for our upcoming village budget for 2026-27. And therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Rybrook concurs with the Town of Rye and adopts for fiscal year 25-26, the village, 26-27, village tax purposes a homestead-based proportion at a rate equal to 79.834242 for the homestead-based properties and non-homestead-based proportion at a rate of 20.165758. And be it further resolved, the mayor and administrator are authorized to sign all necessary documents to implement the purposes of this resolution. And be it further resolved, the town assessor and tax collector are authorized and directed to make any filings on behalf of Rybrook and to take any additional actions necessary to implement the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
Motion?
Second.
I think we've had a lot of conversation on this. Certainly, we appreciate the town of Rye doing the heavy lifting and going through the math on this. And any other questions or comments from the board? All right.
Just nodding our heads.
It's been a long night.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
And Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Administrator's report.
Okay, just 2 items. As the mayor said, great job by Public Works and Parks and our emergency services on all our roadways. We know it's also a struggle for residents, too. There's a lot of snow that gets built up and goes back and forth between the end of the driveways and into the street and back into the driveways. And But that's a dance that everyone's doing as we run out of space. But it is tough. We do ask residents to please not put the snow, don't clear the cars off in the roadways and these types of storms. It creates a hazard for others. Plus, it's after the storm. That's usually when Public Works and Parks are, after a long, sometimes multiple days of working through these storms, they're often now going home to get their rest, and then it recreates the problem until they can get back out after they get some rest. But they worked for very long hours in this storm. We also asked for residents' help in kind of digging out the areas like around the hydrants and ultimately the sidewalks. Again, a lot of snow out there. We always are understanding that it takes a little bit of time to get there, so we don't rush right out to enforce it, but we also need to make sure that people who do walk have that ability to safely get on the streets. Particularly also the hydrants, though. It is important to get that access to the hydrants. Often the neighboring residents are familiar with, who's adjacent to a hydrant, knows where those hydrants are, and the help digging that out does go a long way. Later in the week, we are going to be digging out some areas in the lower end of the village where the streets are tighter, and there are cars that are parked at certain times. So we are going to be working with the residents there. We did this in the last storm, and they'll be out digging it, in some cases blowing it into the properties, in some cases removing the snow from the area as the best we can. So it's a process. We all get through it, and we'll continue to take on these storms as they come forward. Other item I just want to mention, just last item, is our babysitter program graduates are available. This is just a great program that's done by our fire department. Teenagers come in and they do take a program that is really a fantastic program offered through the fire department and through our Rybrook Recreation Department. And that's a program that involves, kids that are looking to be well prepared as they're entering in, a lot of them their first job in babysitting. But we want to make sure that, they have the tools to do the job well, and for the parents to be comfortable that are leaving their kids when they're going out and need a babysitter. So the program involves working with, police department if, somebody knocks on the door, and how to handle those situations. Our EMS for, a basic first aid, and, how to do if somebody needs care. And also our fire department, how to operate fire extinguishers and do things like that. Some basic home services that applies not just for babysitting, but in life. So it's a really nice program. If the parents sign off on it, then we do make that list available, and then the parents can interview anybody on the list that's been through the program. So it's a nice community program, one of the few around that does this. I think we're only 2 in the county that do that, but it's really a nice community service. And if people are looking for babysitters and want somebody who's been through our program and want to get that list, please contact our rec department, and they'll be happy to provide a list of those children that the parents have said it's okay to share. So that's all, Mayor.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Do we advertise this through the high school?
We do.
I would imagine junior high schoolers also babysit?
Yep, and we
They're
do put
aware
it
of
out.
it.
And and we do, and we also put it all through the rec, and we do. We've had pretty full classes throughout. And it's a multi-class. This isn't one class and done. This is several weeks of coming in and spending nights and evenings here. And there's a graduation at the end, and I think it's the American Heart Association. They get a training, they get a program, they get a certificate that also they participated in the course. So yeah, just like we said, if parents are interested, if you have children that are coming of age and looking to babysit, this is a great program for them. Please also contact our rec department. We offer this program every fall, and it's something we encourage. It's a great first job for people, and we want to be prepared as they take care of children in the community.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Yes, we have a few.
Just
No,
quick.
I just want to, although it's been said already, Michael, please congratulate your guys. They did an amazing job in horrendous conditions.
Just real quick, our community library that we share with Portchester is celebrating a 150-year anniversary. This Saturday, they've advertised a program on Facebook and on their website. So the Portchester, I guess it's called the Portchester-Rybrook Library. The building's 100 years old, but it's been in existence for 150 years. And so they're having a lot of events this Saturday. The public is welcome.
Yes, and I will make it if I can. Otherwise,
I'll be there.
Great.
Yeah.
So I would like to take a moment and to also thank the highway staff, the parks, and the mechanics as well. This was a 36-hour storm. It wears down the crews, basically working all these hours and blinding lights and flashing lights going on and off. It takes a toll on staff, okay? But I am proud of them. They did awesome. We had some equipment issues which we worked through. Everybody is all hands on deck, and also want to say thank you to the board for giving us the equipment that makes a difference in these types of events, because it's basically a grind. It's a duration storm. It takes a toll on our trucks and our equipment. The sub-zero temperatures, us changing over to liquids and chemicals makes a difference. So also thank you to the board, but I'm very proud of the staff. They're amazing. So their job is harder than mine in these issues. They're out there. I'm behind the scenes helping them. So I'm very proud of them.
So you're warm and inside.
Not always. Not always.
Well, and our job is certainly easier than theirs as well. But I have to say, most of the comments I got during the storm were overwhelmingly positive. And I think at this point most residents know, you travel around Rybrook, you travel outside of Rybrook, you see the difference. And so we are
Yes,
very appreciative
we do.
of everything they do. So thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw your trucks in the middle of the storm going back and forth, even on my little street. And so it was very impressive. It really was. And then on Monday, when everybody's driveway was unplowed, the streets were blacktop.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
it was really unbelievable. And so just kudos to every one of them.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you. And please extend our thanks to everyone.
Hopefully they're sleeping.
Yeah, hopefully they are. I'm getting some much needed rest, as I put in a text to Chris
Yes.
at the end of the storm. All right. Any comments from the public on non-agenda items?
Don't shout at once.
Public government at its best.
Yeah. And we are all volunteers sitting up here, so. And we appreciate you sticking around for the meeting. All right, given none, the next meetings of the Board of Trustees will be March 10th and March 24th of 2026. Thank you and have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.